I found out my youngest daughter isn't biologically mine and it crushed me. First off, I would just like to thank everyone here. Your experiences have made me feel not so alone. Also, I apologize for any formatting issues as I am on mobile and am feeling kinda down tonight. On to the story. As to where to start, I suppose I should give a little bit of background. In 2010 I was in the army and deployed to the Middle East for 12 months. I came home for 2 weeks for my mid-deployment R&R, and as so many soldiers before me, fell in love with a girl that I'd known my whole life. We spent every minute of those 2 weeks wrapped in each other's arms, and I knew it that she was it for me. We spoke every day the remainder of my deployment. I talked her into driving my car halfway across the country. It was at my mother's while I was deployed, under the guise that she'd stay a while and we would fly back to our hometown together, and I would go back and we would carry on as ALDR. Instead, I proposed and she said yes, so we got an apartment, moved in together and got married a few weeks later. Our life was perfect for about 3 months, haha, until her stepmother, who she hated, was in a car accident and she went home to see her. My SO decided that she was so homesick that she was going to stay back home, and although I didn't agree, I did support her in this decision. After several weeks, our relationship quickly deteriorated to a point where we agreed to separate and give each other time. Now obviously in hindsight this should have been the end of our relationship. I had about 18 months left on my contract and she was 1,000 miles away, but being the love-struck grunt that I was, I held on to hope and made my vows into a personal atonement for failure. I drank heavily / daily for most of my remaining time in the service. So fall of 2012 and I ETS out, pack my stuff and head home. As soon as I get home I hear all the rumors of her running around with such and such and how she's been kinda crazy. I file for divorce and call her up and ask to meet so she could sign papers, and surprise surprise, we meet, and instead of signing papers we have says, and I'm right back in with reassurance that this time will be different. So if you've made it this far, congratulations, I applaud your perseverance and warn that we're far from done and the worst is yet to come. I worked very hard and supported her for the next couple years while she finished her BSA. I did everything I could think of to be a supportive, loving husband. As time wore on, I no longer fought her on anything and continually caved to her wishes, letting her go out with friends and party while I slowly contracted until all I did was work and go home. No friends, very little contact with family and no hobbies. But I was mostly happy. I loved my wife more than anything and settled into my existence. The one thing we fought about was says. Now we had great says and she never left unsatisfied, but shortly into our reconciliation our says life became sporadic at best. First it was several times a week, then once a week, then once every couple weeks, then at its worst it was 6 times in a year. I was growing very unsatisfied and she blamed her birth control, so I resigned myself to an unfulfilled existence. Fast forward to 2015 and we had just paid off our first home and I had purchased a small repair shop and we decided to try and have a baby. She went off BC and our says life did vastly improve. The beginning of the next year she became pregnant and we welcomed our first daughter into the world that fall. She decides that she wants to stay home, which I support, and we start living a pretty peaceful life. Since she's home all day with the baby, I take about 90% of the responsibilities when I'm at home, feeding / changing / bathing, etc. This quickly turns into her needing to go out on the weekends and blow off steam while I'm at home with the baby. No big deal, I'm more than happy to let her, but these nights quickly turn into her not getting home until 4 a.m., bars close at 1 a.m., and she's always just saying she's cruising with her GFs. I don't like it, but I acquiesce. About 18 months after our first girl we are surprised when she gets pregnant again. Now she still wasn't on BC, but we used rubbers most of the time, but not 100%, so although we were surprised it wasn't unwelcome. Fall of 2018 our second daughter is born, and from the get-go my wife does not handle it as well as the first. She says postpartum depression and I don't know what to think, but I get them home and do my best to take care of my growing family. My wife starts drinking within weeks of birth, but only on weekends, but still not getting home until 4 a.m. Her depression and anger soon become such an issue that we start going to marriage counseling, and every session is about how I'm no good, lazy and a P dependent. This goes on for a few months until she finally confronts me and accuses me of having an affair with her best friend. I was so caught off guard that I was speechless. I spent every minute of every day either working or with my girls. Eventually she started to become so irrational that I suggested that she get medical help and came very close to having her admitted to a psychiatric facility, but she went on her own, got evaluated, and I discovered that she was bipolar. She had been diagnosed as a teen, Eventually, when she calmed down, I asked her what was going on, and she told me she had an affair on and off again with this guy most of our marriage, but she ended it before she initially got pregnant, and her recent actions were because she had so much guilt and had to get it off her chest. Now I'm broken, I don't know what to do or what to think, and just can't stand to have all of this around my daughters, so I tell her that for right now I'm going to stay at my dad's and just needed time to think. About a week later I came back home and did my best to work through this. The very next weekend she says that she needs some space and that she going to go see a friend and gets drunk, doesn't come home and won't tell me where she is. That was the last straw. I told her to stay where she was, and I took my girls to my mother's and stayed there for 2 weeks and filed for divorce. It was sometime later that I had a nagging suspicion and did DNA tests on both my girls. Turns out my youngest isn't biologically mine, and then that is what really crushed me, and not because of what my WS did to me but what she did to her, and I dread the day when she's old enough and mature enough that I have to tell her. Now that fact doesn't detract from my love for my daughter. Her mother's choices have no effect on our relationship. I changed her first diaper, fed her first bottle, heard her first words, and love her as fiercely as my oldest. She is mine. So now I'm sitting here almost 2 years since D-Day, still trying to finalize divorce. She's dragging it out. My business, with all the time I took off to deal with crazy and compounded with the pandemic, is all but done, and I'm having a terrible time moving on, but hopefully tomorrow will be a good day. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk. Although perhaps no one will read this, it felt good to get it all out, and if by chance you did get through it all, sorry. Call me rude. But your wife has many bags of hypocrisy. I'm sorry for you for having all of this mess. Maybe in right you will find someone who loves you and respect. For now, focus on your kids. Introducing Newscaster Vocalizer is a new first-of-its-kind, groundbreaking app, which allows you to generate full-featured voiceovers from any text using direct access to Amazon-powered Newscaster Vocalizer without spending thousands of dollars. Just select a language and voice, paste your text, click a button, and it's done. Did you confront your wife about the second child's DNA test? Has she shown any ounce of remorse after D-Day, or when you find out about the affair? What was her reasoning for carrying out affair? Honestly, if you are filing for divorce for sure at this point, please make sure to take note of every single terrible thing she did to you so you can have evidence. Her bipolar disorder, her constant partying, and neglectful motherhood will probably help in your favor. I also think that you need to have an email or text conversation about making provisions to legally claim your second daughter as your own. Like you said, you already created a bond with her, and I really commend your tenacity to being a father to her. You have been a good father and a good husband, my friend. The best you can do is live life well with your daughters. Please book an IC as soon as you can. You can heal from this betrayal, and honestly, a professional is best equipped to give you the best advice. Start protecting your financials by closing down the shared accounts. Talk to your lawyer to figure out your options. Also, please change the passwords to your bank accounts and social media. Whenever you have to meet your STBX, have a friend or family member as a witness in a public space. If you can, try voice recording these interactions. This is so that she can't twist your words to her benefit. In fact, if you are dead set on NC, just tell her to contact your lawyer and have your mother or another family member mediate times and locations if she wants to see the children. I know it's hard to think about, but maybe you should also start dating after divorce is complete. Your STBX is toxic, but there will always be good women out there who are loyal and kind. Take some time off to travel solo or with your friends/family to a nearby destination, if C19 gets better. Take up hobbies and activities you always had an interest in. In my opinion, this woman is toxic, and she still continued to deceive you even after the bipolar diagnosis. Don't give in to her manipulative charms. Just remember D-Day and all the horrible things she has done to you during your marriage. If she is remorseful and wants to change herself, she should do that without you. Finalize the divorce and keep her at arm's length. Until you really see extreme changes in her lifestyle and mindset, there's no reason to talk to rekindle your relationship again after the divorce. In my opinion, best to cut her out. This might be unorthodox, but you could write a letter that explains how you felt throughout all her manipulative, offensive and poisonous behavior, and how much she hurt you for cheating and hiding the baby's paternity. After that, wish her all the best, mediate through a friend or family member, and go NC. I wish you the best of luck, OP. You can get through this, man. You served our country, you came back as a family man, you forgave your STBX's transgressions for your daughter's sake, and you are building a business. It looks bad now, but with time it will get better, OP doesn't need to do anything legal to ensure child number 2 is his. If OP's name is on the birth certificate and he signed it, in the eyes of the law, that child is OP's. No judge will care that the DNA doesn't match to OP. It's completely irrelevant. The signed birth certificate is a legal document, and that is what the judge will look at. About the only legal thing he needs to do is to make sure he gets sole custody with visitation at his discretion and child support. He may never get the child support, but at least it's on record. Initially I was very scared about paternity and custody, but after several meetings with attorney, there is case law in my state that would support my claim. Currently custody is 50-50, although I do pay child support since at the time temp custody was established she was unemployed. Excellent. I sure hope it all goes in your favor. You were so close to avoiding this when you decided to file for divorce. Yeah, hindsight is 20/20 and all that, but even though I regret the choices I made, I did get 2 pretty incredible kids out of the deal, so I look at this more as a school of hard knocks kinda deal. What will the custody situation be for your youngest daughter? You realize you might not have a say in this. Unless you lawyer up. The actual father may want to exert his parental rights and you might be screwed there. Will you get 100% custody? Sounds like she doesn't like being a mother. Is she in a position to pay child support? Custody is currently 50-50, but I am pressing for full custody, and according to my attorney I have a 80 to 90% shot at getting them because of all of the extenuating circumstances. As far as the bio father, he knows and is not interested in my daughter. He is much older with grown children, and I don't think his wife would be thrilled. Yes, I did confront her about a month after I found out and had time to reflect. At first she claimed she was knocked out and taken advantage at the bar, then it was a ONS with an ex, who she now lives with on the other side of the state, then blah blah blah. Finally got out of her that it was the dude she had the long time affair with, of course. As far as is she remorseful? Yeah, she is. She's begged me continuously until about 3 months ago to take her back, but I never really even considered it because she was living with a dude. She's lived with 3 different men since D-Day, and I found it hard to take her seriously. Financially she took every bit of liquid assets we had, $710K, and maxed my business lock, $6K, but honestly that's a small price to pay. Our relationship now is 100% one-sided by her with the exception of co-parenting. I'll read the texts and reply cordially, but I've made it clear that our romantic relationship is over with no chance of reconciliation. Thanks for your insight and advice. Worldwide comments of the day: I'm sorry kid. But, it's your mom's choice. Tell the school board about his extracurricular activities, and when your mom tries to come back to the family, talk your father into a kinda like a prenup but for cheaters. I hope you and your family the best, I really do. It's time for you to man up and take care of your family, bud. Luck. This is why you leave the cheater the first time. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Bro, get a dog, they're loyal, and their love is unconditional. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more interesting and relatable Reddit videos.